It's Sunday, March 28th. Let's get caught up. So this was an eventful week. We had a lot of stuff going on. We had regional speech and debate, which was virtual this year, so we had to upload those things. Because I am on the state committee, I'm also on the regional committee, and so I had some stuff to do there, although I'm not in charge of the regional tournament. That's another guy who did a great job. It's over, everything went really well, and that's very exciting. On top of that, though, we were working on the play. We caught a lucky break last week because we originally only had rehearsal scheduled on Wednesday because there was a baseball game and a track meet and stuff like that, but it rained Monday and Tuesday, so the baseball game got canceled, the track meet got canceled, so I took those weeknights back, and we had rehearsal, which was great. We had two really good blocking rehearsals, so we're approaching the halfway point of the play. Normally on a play like this, it's about discovering the blocking as you go, and that's kind of been my go-to answer to the kids anytime they have a question, because they're very smart and they get how these things work. So they're asking specific questions like, well, what about when this happened? And my answer is, we'll discover that together. That's my motto, and that's how these plays, story theater, work when you're putting them together. The blocking process is usually more collaborative in these kinds of plays than they are in, say, like if you're doing like a farce or maybe a drama. I may spend a lot more time like mapping the blocking myself, and then obviously they have input. But in a play like this, typically it's about discovering it as we go. I'll lay out the basics. You start the scene here, and at the end of the scene you have to get over there. I brought stopwatches home because I had to judge debate and they're going off. So I'll map out a scene. So you start here, you start at A, you get to B by the end of the scene, and let's figure out how you do that through the rehearsal process. Because of the time crunch on this one, we only have, I only had one rehearsal scheduled last week. I really only have one rehearsal scheduled this week until Saturday, which is a marathon. It's a little less collaborative, and it's more about, okay, here's the blocking that we did in the first production. We're going to use that to get it up on its feet. So here's the video of the last production. Let's just model this, use this as our model for our blocking now. And then once it's on its feet, then we're going to change it significantly, but I just need to get it up there. It's also going through the blocking process helps them A, memorize, and B, discover the characters. And so it's sort of how I would normally do it, which is here's the basic idea, except it's much more specific. Here's the finished performance, just copy that blocking for now. We are making adjustments because the set is significantly smaller, because since we're filming this for competition, instead of, it's designed for the camera, it's not designed for a wide audience, like physically wide space audience. So the sight lines are different, and the set is much more compressed than it probably would be. So there's really a fairly narrow acting area left to right. So the blocking has had to shift already because of those limitations. And then, although overall we're just taking the blocking from the first production that I directed, and then we're going to tweak it. Like we have already sort of discovered some ideas that we're going to work on as we get it, but we got to get it up on its feet. We're 5 weeks out now, I think, or about 6 weeks out. We upload the video on May 5th. It's March 28th, so yeah, so we're about 5 weeks out. It's going really well. And I'm really proud of the kids for the work they're doing. They're thinking about it a lot when they're not there, and they're pushing me to work as well. So that's good. That's how you know it's going well, when the kids are asking you to, let's add a rehearsal and stuff like that. But on top of the play last week, we also had regional speech to contend with. We did well there. Normally, we've won regional speech for several years in a row. We didn't even place this year because I didn't require kids to compete because it's COVID and it's a weird year. So we had a smaller entry, but they did really well. We won 4 events. We qualified another, I think 4 events. So we got a strong entry going into regionals just in terms of the individual caliber of the performances, and I'm very proud of those kids. Those kids are doing double duty. For the most part, they're doing double duty. They're doing one act and competitive. They're doing theater and speech and debate, and as well as a couple of them baseball and track and stuff like that. So that's where we are. One thing I haven't talked a lot about, or maybe at all in these vlogs, about how I structure a rehearsal. So let me talk about that for just a second. There are 3 sort of phases. There's the warm-up, there's the rehearsal, and then there's the closing, or the cool-down. I usually call the warm-up setting the ground. It's like painting, where you put on the base color maybe on the canvas to paint on, rather than just blank. I'm using all kinds of painting metaphors because I'm just into painting right now. So that's the opening. The warm-up's important, and I'll probably do a whole thing on how a warm-up should and can work. And it's not that I always do it right, but it can be a really vital help to you in the rehearsal process. And I think anything you do, it's something that I talk about with the kids, but I don't know that they always listen. Whatever you're doing, you should warm up. If you're going to write, you should warm up your writing before you actually start writing the writing. So there's that. And then it's the end piece, though, that I think is important. It's important to try to be consistent about that, all of that, like the check-in and warm-up. We check in on numbers. Number 10 being you're excited to be there, 1 being you're not excited to be there, and that's the continuum, 1 through 10. Then we do that every time. Then usually we throw names, and then we'll do another. This is just telling me I'm talking too long. Is really what this is doing. Then we'll do another, maybe another game or 2. And it gives me a chance to sort of see where they are and how they're feeling, and then I can sort of adapt. I can pick a game that fits the needs of that moment. But the end piece is what I really want to talk about, I think, today, because I think it's important, and I'm using it more and more. I've always kind of done it, but I'm trying to really sort of ritualize it. Ritual's very important in life. There's a reason that if you go to church, there's the litany is laid out, like you have this sort of the same process every time, so you know what to expect, because it puts you into a frame of mind where you are prepared for whatever the lesson is. So another component of that, so I'll talk about warm-ups at some point, but another component of that I think is very important is the end, how you exit. So more and more I'm doing that. They all have, except Jade, who I haven't gotten one for yet because I keep forgetting, they all have their journal. And in their journal, at the end of rehearsal, they do a couple things. First, they write down what happened, just essentially a narrative of this is what we did in rehearsal today. Then I give them a little time for that. Then I usually ask for 2 or 3 celebrations, things that went well or that they're proud of, either proud of themselves or proud of another person in the cast, or just happy about, or something that's going well. And then also a place where they're worried, or that they need work, or that we need work, or something that we need, something that will help us improve the next rehearsal. So we do that. They write those things, and then I'll try to change it up a little bit, but those things are pretty consistent. And then we do a 5-minute meditation, and I'm currently using the beginner's pack on Headspace. I think Headspace is a great app. I'm not necessarily promoting it. They're not paying me or anything, although that'd be cool. But it's a really good app, and that I use, and the basic, you can get on and kind of do it, just take them through the basic course. And it's just simple 5-minute meditations guided by our friend Andy. And the idea behind that is there's research that I read about in Brain Rules by Jim Medina, which is a book that I highly recommend. Also, he's not paying me, but it'd be cool if he did. But if you haven't read that book and you're a teacher, you should read that book, and then you should like read that book and then read the book again, because I find it incredibly helpful. But there's research, I think it came from there, but there's research that says that if you can do, maybe it didn't come from there, I don't know, what a disaster that would be. Oh well, maybe there's no research, maybe I'm making this up, but if you will do, it's reflection. Meditation can work as reflection. So here you take them through a process, then they reflect in their journals, and then they hopefully just breathe. And they aren't thinking about anything necessarily, they're just watching their thoughts and going back to the breath. But that helps to sort of lock in whatever it is that happened. It helps the brain to file it and process it. And I'm not asking them, and I hope that they're not thinking about rehearsal during the meditation, although they probably are, like those things are happening. But through that process, it sort of helps them assimilate what happened. So it speeds the process of putting the show together, and it's also just healthy, and it's a good way to leave. Then, after the meditation, we'll circle up. I will give them the final, like, okay, here's the last thing I want to say. Like this week, it was about, it was planting the seed that, hey, haircuts are probably coming for the guys who have longer hair. And, you know, I'll mention that, and then we'll check out on numbers just like we check in on numbers. And it's just, it's a number of, on the checkout, it's a general, just how are you feeling about life? How are things going? And obviously, you know, your hope is that they check in and out with high numbers, but that's not always true, and you want them to be honest. It's important on the checkouts and check-ins that you're not asking them to explain it. It's not, I don't want to know why you have that number. I don't care why you have that number. I mean, I do, but I don't want to know, and I don't want the kids to know. Like, if you're having a bad day, you're having a bad day. Fine, we don't need to know. I just want to know what the number is, so I know what you're dealing with. And then I want to know what they're leaving on, because that will tell me a little bit about how rehearsal went, and if I need to reflect on like, if we're always leaving on low numbers, there's probably a problem. All right, look, the thing's beeping for the third time. I wonder why that's, I don't know how to set these things. These are like old school stopwatches. I'm a little tired for this vlog. It's been a long week. It's about to be a really long 2 weeks because the state speech and debate competition is coming up, and I'm involved in that, less so than the other committee members, I think, because they're better than I am. But it'll be, it's gonna go quickly, but it's gonna feel like a really long couple of weeks as we gear up for the state speech contest, and as we keep trying to put this play together. But I'm, you know, all the schools that are doing one act in speech are in this boat, so I'm not alone. It was a great week. This is going to be another good week. We lose a lot of kids. Their stuff, you know, baseball, track, FCCLA is gone for 2 days this week. So really, we won't have another real rehearsal until the Saturday marathon. And then hopefully, at the end of the Saturday marathon, the play is, we'll be able to run the play. Not with the sound or the music or the, you know, blocking or lines or lights. But we'll be able to get through it somehow at the end of Saturday, and then if we can do that, we'll be in good shape. Also, we're getting ready for state speech. That's it. It was a good week.
Huh?